Good evening, everyone. Good morning to those of you joining us from the U.S. I'm Pete Swift. I'm the chairman of the Kuwait Chamber of Commerce in Kuwait. Happy to have all of you join us for this very important forum. The purpose of this event is to allow companies that have interest in doing business from the U.S. to Kuwait and to get more information and for companies that have interest in doing business from Kuwait to the U.S. It's a good share and exchange of information, and it'll allow us to know how to help each other and help other companies. Our chapter started as a business council in 1985 here with the purpose of advocating for business community. And through that, we've grown. Our purpose is bilateral exchange between Kuwait and the U.S. and to support all business interests going both directions. And we're really excited about this. I'm looking forward to hearing some of the presentations today. And I'll ask that, and Paul has already taken it, the phones will remain on mute till the end, and there'll be a question and answer session. So please type your questions in the chat box and hold them to the end. And we look forward to having a great exchange here today. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Doug Brook, CEO of the Global Chambers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pete. My name is Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. I want to thank all the organizers, Paula, your outstanding organization here, and then to our team as well, Lanier Robbins in Miami and Mijong Hibbets in Baltimore, Washington, and leaders like Signa from Maryland Department of Commerce. Thank you all for participating today, and thanks for all that you do to increase trade. I was asked to spend a couple minutes and just explain a little bit about Global Chamber, and I'm very happy to do that. It's a passion for many of us. I'm actually the founder of Global Chamber. I'm originally a Polish, German, American who had a long career. It's now over 35 years in international business. I was a chemical engineer with the DuPont company, and that gave me the opportunity to become an AmCham member in Singapore and Tokyo as an expat with DuPont, and experience early on the value of AmChams around the world, and one of the reasons why we love to collaborate, including today's event. My belief after retiring was that not enough companies are involved with international business. One of the reasons why that's the case is that it's hard. It's much easier to do local business. For those of us that do global business, I don't think we could do local business only. You know, we're trained to be more challenged by the intercultural aspects of global business and all the other aspects. We also believe at Global Chamber that beyond building value and business around the world, that trade increases understanding. It increases enlightenment to some degree, and by having that around the world, we have a lot less problems. We are located at Global Chamber's headquarters is now in Thunderbird School of Global Management, one of the top schools around the world for international business. And one of the signs down the hall from me talks about that borders that facilitate trade require many few soldiers. And beyond just creating value and creating new clients and building resources, a trusted resource network around the world, we do believe that there is ultimately value for companies and people around the world to have this fundamental understanding and make a better world. In the meantime, though, we do have this world that we live in, and one of the real challenges is customers, finding customers in a little bit of a crazy world. And so we spend our days at Global Chamber in 525 chapters around the world, including several that are represented here today, including Kuwait and Los Angeles and Baltimore, Washington, and Miami, and another 520 chapters around the world. By helping our members connect up to clients. At the end of the day, they pay the bills. And so when I was with DuPont, it was relatively easy to get new clients. We were fairly well known. My son-in-law is an executive with Tesla, and he doesn't have much of a problem in getting attention. But the rest of us, the 99+%, don't necessarily have that platter handed to us. We have to do a little bit more work to be well known. And I'll finish up with an example of how that works. I just actually literally a few minutes before this event started, got the okay from an oligarch in Kazakhstan to become a global icon sponsor of Global Chamber. He is well known in Kazakhstan and in CIS countries, but he's not yet well known in the rest of the world. He wants to be known in the Western world, and we put together a plan for that to happen for him. He's going to be very global very soon. I had a chance the other day, I thought it'd be a 10-minute conversation, and it was a 2-hour conversation about an amazing value proposition that he has. And so after hearing that, I know that he's going to have some real great growth opportunities around the world with his schools, with his businesses, etc. Many of us, all of us, have businesses, products, and services that can be used across borders. And at the end of the day, just giving us a chance, giving us an opportunity to have a conversation with a trusted ear is all that we ask. And so I know everybody here on this line is devoted toward building business. So are we at Global Chamber. And it's really my honor and pleasure to participate not only today, but every day in the world of global business. The next speaker is Yusuf Almaty. He's from the U.S. Embassy, and it's my pleasure to introduce Yusuf. Thank you for your opportunity to speak today.
Doug, thank you so much, and good morning, everybody who are in the U.S., and good afternoon, good evening for guys who are in the rest of the world. My name is Yusuf Al-Mahdi. I'm a commercial specialist that works at the U.S. Commercial Service in Kuwait. For people who are not familiar with the U.S. Commercial Service, we are part of the U.S. Trade Department, and we have offices throughout all the United States, as well as more than 75 international offices around the world, including Kuwait, for example. So we do work very closely with our partners, such as ABCK and U.S. Chamber of Commerce and others as well. So if I can just give you a quick brief about what's going on in Kuwait, I'm not going to take a long time. I'm not going to take much of your time. So as you know, COVID has been a major game changer for all the countries in the world, including Kuwait. Thankfully, now we are post-COVID. In general, Kuwait, since it's an oil-based economy, we had our own fair share of budget constraints. The Kuwaiti government budget is very sensitive to the price of oil. Thankfully, the price of oil is picking up, and just for the sake of curiosity, I just checked that the price of crude oil today is about $115.30. Today, exactly last year, used to be $65.50. So thankfully, we are, at least for this part of the world, who are oil producers, we are 76% better off than 1 year ago. So by saying so, governments like Kuwait are really eager to go back and kickstart project that's been sort of like kept on the side, waiting for better economic situation. So talking about economy, Kuwait is a net importer from nearly everything that comes to your mind. Kuwait has been a strategic partner with the United States for decades. And when it comes to number crunching, for example, for the past 5 years, the U.S. Kuwait bilateral trade has been doing favorably for the United States. The United States exported to Kuwait as much as $16.3 billion worth of goods in the past 5 years, whereas imported from Kuwait about $8 billion. So the trade balance is clearly and the advantage for the United States. From a GCC perspective, the Gulf perspective, which consists of 6 countries, including Kuwait, Kuwait is ranked as the 3rd U.S. partner and 3rd in terms of U.S. exports to the region. So when we talk quickly about the U.S. economy, the U.S., as I mentioned, the Kuwaiti market is totally dependent on imports. Now, countries such as the United States, U.S. exporters do enjoy some major advantages, including competitive prices, language, and exchange rates, since the Kuwaiti dinar is pegged to the dollar, and this makes a lot of difference. We do have a lot of competition from European and Asian suppliers as well, who are aggressively trying to gain market share with their close proximity to the market and perceived high level of customer support. As much as Kuwait is strategically located in the Gulf, do enjoy an amazing gross domestic product with a small population as big as 4 million. For a size smaller than New Jersey in terms of size, we do have our own challenges. Kuwait complex business environment requires flexibility, patience, and persistence. So many U.S. exporters and investors in Kuwait do face challenges that exist as well as in other GCC countries. Such challenges including inconsistent and sometimes ongoing changing policies, lack of transparency as well. So those could be some of the challenges. Another challenge is that by law, you would need an agent or a distributor to do business in Kuwait. You cannot do that without that. In general, the ease of doing business can also be sometimes challenging. Kuwait is ranked 83 among 190 economies around the world by the World Bank in terms of ease of doing business. There was a slight improvement if you want to compare that number back in 2018. We used to be 97. Kuwait is now 83. They have a long way to go, but I think based on the government initiatives, slowly but surely improvements are picking up. For business transparency, this could also be another challenge. Kuwait is ranked 73 among 180 countries around the world in terms of the Corruption Perception Index issued by Transparency International. So transparency, again, could be an issue. That's why our office, the U.S. Commission Service in Kuwait, do really emphasize that if you want to do business in Kuwait, you need to do your homework. You need to reach out to our office so we can assist you. You need to tie up by working with a reliable agent, local agent who knows the market, who could be your main door opener as far as doing business in Kuwait. There are plenty of hot sectors, but I would like to choose one of them, which is thanks to COVID, definitely. Healthcare. Healthcare is an extremely active business sector in Kuwait. In fact, if you want to have a quick look at Kuwait's healthcare mega projects, the period between 2004 and 2029, you're talking about nearly $16 billion worth of projects that has been completed, executed, in design phase, study, or on hold. For example, during the period between the same period which I mentioned, about 21 projects been completed, including brand new hospitals, extensions to hospitals, worth about $6 billion. In terms of projects which are currently in the pipeline, there are 9 projects worth about like $5.2 billion. In terms of the design phase, we're talking about 4 projects worth about like $2 billion. And in the study phase, we have 3 projects worth about $3 billion. Talking about the study phase, one of the main projects which are currently in the study phase is a brand new hospital for the Ministry of Defense, and the U.S. Corps of Engineers is going to take over the complete phase of the project. That project is worth about $1.7 billion. So things are really kicking as far as healthcare is concerned, and you can imagine the amount of business sectors that can benefit from such projects in the health sector. Starting by construction, consultancy, design, medical equipment, and so forth. My final point, I would like to mention that part of the Commerce Department we are aggressively trying to push for foreign direct investment back to the US. And one of the main tools that we use is the Select USA. The Select USA Summit that's going to take place this year between June 26th to June 29th. Is considered as the highest profile event in the United States to promote foreign direct investment to the state. So Select USA, we're talking about multi-phase events, including participants can explore the interactive exhibitor showcase featuring U.S. economic development organizers, service providers from more than 50 states coming in, more than 100 sessions in person as well as virtual in virtually every line of business sector. And you're also going to meet, a lot of available partnership opportunities with industry partners from across the United States. So a lot of people would be asking the question, why should I invest in the United States? I mean, the United States consumer market is the most robust in the planet. For example, in 2017, families within the state purchased more than $13.3 trillion worth of goods and services. And according to the latest statistics, we're talking about the average median household annual income on the range of $61,000. And the United States, of course, enjoys, a huge annual gross domestic product, more than $23 trillion, and a huge potential, market base. We're talking about 332 million people live in the United States. So as far as the participation in 2019, more than 3,000 people participated. About one half of those are international participation from more than 75 countries. So for more information, I'm going to make sure to send Paula more information for people who are interested, either to reach out to the U.S. Commission Service in Kuwait. I'll be more than happy to assist answering any further questions you might have by email, or forward it to my colleagues who handle other business sectors, as well as more information about the Select USA. Thanks so much for your time, and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yusuf. And now for the next speaker, we would like to introduce Ismail Radwan from the World Bank.
Thank you very much, and good evening and good morning to everybody. It's a great pleasure and honor to be with you, and thank you very much for the invitation. So my name is Ismail Radwan. I'm the lead economist for the GCC, the World Bank. I'm based here in Riyadh, enjoying the same sandstorm as you guys are in Kuwait. I think a couple of years, but before that I was in Kuwait for 2 years as well, so I know a little bit about the country as well. I'm happy to share my screen, Paula, if you want to, or yeah. All right. Can you keep going 2 more? And 1 more. I want to start with this one and then go back to the other ones. Thanks. So just a quick overview of the Kuwaiti economy. I think we've actually heard a lot of these numbers already from Yusuf. So let me just recap a little bit. For those of you not so familiar with Kuwait, so a population of just over 4 million, about 1/3 of which are Kuwaiti nationals and 2/3 are expats. GDP is just over $100 billion. Of course, we can't compete with the 23 trillion US, but still reasonably large economy. When it comes to GNI per capita, it looks like it's lower than the US. Right? So I heard you say roughly $60,000 a year in the US, 36,000 in Kuwait. I think we need to multiply that by 3. Because the GDP of Kuwait is very much held by Kuwaiti nationals. And so the vast majority of expats are very poorly paid, low cost, low educated workers from the subcontinent and some poorer Arab countries. So I think if you just look at the Kuwaiti nationals, the economic capital would be roughly 3 times what you see there. I think Yusuf's already told us these are doing business 83, so not the easiest place to do business. And I think I very much support his ideas of getting all the help we can get in terms of going around the regulations, trading across borders, 162 out of 190. So one of the most difficult situations. Now, authorities know this, the authorities are working on this.
This is basically the government sector, revenues and expenditures of the government. One of the things I want to highlight is, of course, revenues are very volatile. I think as Yusuf also said, last year we had $60 a barrel. This year it's well over $100 a barrel. And we don't know what it's going to be next year, right? So this is the volatile green bars that goes up and down with the oil price. The other thing I want to highlight is that since the oil price crash in 2014, Kuwait has run a deficit every single year since then. You can see the red line is zero, that's the balance. And you can see that this is the first time in 2022 that we're going to run a surplus. Every single year since 2014, Kuwait has actually spent more money than they've earned. And this has created some imbalances and issues that the government is having to address. So I don't want to get you all alarmed. It's not a problem because Kuwait has a very large sovereign wealth fund with estimates of about $400 billion roughly. So no cause for alarm, but the cash flow issues are coming to a head in Kuwait. And until recently, I think they've been given a bit of breathing space now that the oil price is well over $100, but will have to be addressed in the medium term. Let's go to the next one, please, Paula. Great. So the other thing that we tend to do in Kuwait is, because the oil sector is so large, it accounts for such a big part of GDP, the most oil-dependent country in the GCC, something like up to 70% of GDP is oil money. So we try to differentiate the oil GDP and the non-oil GDP. If we don't do that, then we get very skewed numbers and very volatile numbers. Every time the oil price changes, the GDP will also change. So there you can see the non-oil sector has been fairly weak, but slow and steady. Of course, 2020 was an aberration because of the COVID-19 pandemic, as it was worldwide. But apart from that, you can see kind of a steady growth of 2 or 3% a year in the non-oil sector. Let's go two more in front, Paula, please. Yeah, we did this one. Okay, exports and imports. I know you guys are interested in the trade figures. Not surprisingly, the exports are pretty much fuel, petroleum products and downstream petroleum products. No real surprises there. On the import side, a lot of automobiles, manufactured goods, capital goods, medicine, art and jewelry. Let's go to the next slide, please. So these are the kind of the trade partners. So here you can see that on the export side, Kuwait is basically exporting petroleum products to Asia, especially South Korea, India, China, and Japan. These are all countries without their own oil sources. You can see the US there on the right-hand side is another export destination. Let's go to the next slide, please, Paula. So this is on the import side. And here you can see the US is an important trade partner, 11% of the total. But you can see China is number one. UAE, I think, is also a big trade partner, and Saudi. A lot of manufactured goods take place in the GCC in Saudi and UAE, and they're imported from there across the border to Kuwait. You can see quite a lot of countries involved here, many more countries on the import side than the export side. And as you've said, pretty much everything is imported. Very little is actually made in Kuwait other than petroleum products. Let's go to the next one, please, Paula. Yeah, so I just want to cover some of the recent economic developments for you and then move to the outlook as we go forward. So for those who are interested, the economic growth dropped by almost 9% because of the corona crisis. We rebounded 2.3% in 2021. And this year we're forecasting 6% growth. So this recovery is driven by oil prices and domestic consumption and the decrease in the corona restrictions. So I was actually living in Kuwait still at the time of the corona pandemic, and I think the Kuwaiti authorities did a very good job in controlling the outbreak. Probably, if I'm very honest, and I hope I don't offend anyone, probably much better than the US did, but also better than many other countries in Europe. So after leaving Kuwait in the middle of the pandemic, I then went to Austria and then to UK, and I can say that the Kuwaiti authorities organized themselves very well during that period and managed to keep the corona pandemic very much under control, and very good health services also. The very high oil prices have managed to narrow the deficit to about 11%, and we expect this deficit to disappear next year. But as I said, financing the deficit in the medium term will be a challenge because there's no borrowing law. So unlike the US, where you guys have borrowed huge amounts, with treasury bills and treasury bonds, Kuwait does not borrow to finance the deficit, and this is a big issue in terms of what happens going forward. As those of you who know Kuwait better than I do, this is an issue right now that's a bit of a standoff between the government and the National Assembly. In terms of the workforce, 9 out of 10 Kuwaitis work in the public sector, and 64% of migrant workers, and a further 31% of migrant workers are employed as domestic workers. So, sorry, there's a bit of a typo there. So 64% of the migrant workers work in the private sector, and 31% are domestic workers. So very, very few non-Kuwaitis in the public sector, and this is actually a government policy. Government is very much focused on what they call the demographic imbalance. So 1/3 of the country are Kuwaiti nationals, 2/3 are foreigners. The government wishes to switch those ratios around so that it will be 2/3 Kuwaitis and 1/3 foreigners in the future. And so they're moving to replace as many of the expat experts in the public sector with Kuwaiti nationals. And I think this is it's probably a long overdue policy that Kuwait originally, when in the 60s and 70s, Kuwait had a much lower education level. And in fact, in 2019 was the first year that the Kuwaiti public service had a majority of graduates working in the public sector. So before that, the majority were high school leavers and people with less than that in terms of their education. So the rating agencies have downgraded Kuwait a couple of times. I don't think there's any chance of a default coming, as I said before, but certainly they've raised issues around the current political stalemate. Let's go to the next slide, please, Paolo. Okay, so this is where my last slide, just to conclude. The World Bank forecasts GDP growth to stabilize between 2 and 3% a year in the medium term. This is, of course, dependent on oil prices. We think the oil production will increase as OPEC plus quotas are lifted. That will happen at the end of the year, and the Al Zour refinery will come on stream. In terms of the monetary policy, we're going to see a gradual tightening of monetary policy. So the central bank has already raised interest rates once. They'll keep going. They're following the Fed's lead. So the Kuwaiti dinar is pegged to a basket, an undisclosed basket of currencies, including the US dollar, but not only the US dollar anymore. But that brings stability, and it has been very stable. Kuwaiti dinar has been very stable against the US dollar. So that should provide investors with some comfort against FX risk in terms of investments into and out of Kuwait. We think the high oil price will eliminate the deficit this year and allow the government to start clearing some of the $7.7 billion in arrears that the government has racked up, mostly owed to other public bodies. The final thing to highlight is the last week's acceptance of the government's resignation. So the government actually resigned several months ago. The resignation was accepted last week by a Emiri decree that was issued by the Crown Prince, but it didn't have a timeline on how long the current government will take a caretaker role. So the current government is now in a caretaker role, which very severely limits what they're able to do. It basically sign checks and keep the government going, but no real policy changes or reforms allowed during that time. And this will continue the political uncertainty and the current standoffs between the government and the National Assembly. It's probably the biggest issue that we face, certainly as a World Bank, in terms of our business with the government. But I hope that the private sector is able to move around that. And I hope that that won't be an issue for investors and private sector stakeholders going forward. So that's my last slide. I do have another slide on there. For anyone who wants these slides, please do contact me or contact Paula, because she has a copy of these. Anyone who wants the figures and numbers, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have at the end. Thank you very much again for the invitation.
Thank you so much for your input, Ismail. So this is the slide you were talking about?
Yeah, and anyone who wants those figures can get them from you, or we do have an update coming out next week, and that will be on our website, a GCC-wide economic update. So anyone who wants it can get the numbers. We update them every 6 months with a new topic, and anyone can go back and take a look if you're interested in what Kuwait is doing on climate change, what Kuwait is doing in terms of civil service reforms, what Kuwait is doing on private sector development. You can find those reports on our website going back every 6 months for the past few years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ismail. So I would now like to introduce Bashair Al-Usaimi. She is with the Kuwait Direct Investment Promotion Authority.
Just a quick introduction. My name is Bashair Al-Usaimi. I will be representing and introducing Kuwait Direct Investment Promotion Authority. It's a pleasure to be able to present to you today. During this presentation, I will be focusing more on direct investment, the opportunities available in Kuwait, what we aim to reach within the near future, and what type of services does KDIPA provide in order to be able to reach such goals. Now, it's only fair enough to highlight a couple of aspects and figures. So if we take a look at the second slide, Kuwait has a vision, majority of you are aware of that, to be reached by 2035. Each of these 7 pillars displayed in front of you have certain figures, and those are basically the goals to be reached by then. In terms of KDIPA, we do play hand in hand with Kuwait's vision. So if at any time or point this either it has been shifted or if there was a more focus on a certain sector, we'll be able to do that in order to ensure direct investment and also to be able to satisfy Kuwait's vision. Just to go over it very briefly, I think my fellow speakers have done an amazing job on highlighting some of the current figures. Those are all what we wish to basically be achieved by 2035. As of obtaining any business license, we wish to introduce that to decrease that by 20 business days instead of the current situation. That meaning any type of commercial, in terms of the Ministry of Commerce or any types of government license required, to completely be reduced by only 20 days. Also, working along with introducing and increasing small businesses within the economy is to increase that number by more than 3,000 small businesses overall, aiming to achieve a global position at an increase of 1.5. Now, if we move on to the second slide, we are able to see the unique propositions. One of my fellow speakers has mentioned Kuwait lies in a very strategic position. When coming to invest directly and establishing a company directly in Kuwait, having the remaining countries, the neighboring countries to service to them, such as increasing export, I believe it allows Kuwait to have a very strategic location. When we come to see at other aspects and when we compare to neighboring countries, we can see that Kuwait has a very low corporate income tax, which is only 15%, and that is only an income tax. I believe one of the major aspects is having a very low electricity and water cost, also when compared to other neighboring countries. But what I would like to further concentrate on, and I believe it's something a lot of investors that do approach to us, are the mega opportunities. And we'll be able to take a look at it in the next slide. Increasing diversification and basically decreasing imports. We would like to, as much as possible, move away from the oil and gas sector. And so the healthcare, the finance, and the waste management sectors, we've seen a lot of interest in. Displayed in front of you are major sectors where we aim to always attract direct investment projects. We may now move on to introducing KDIPA, and I will introduce how is KDIPA able to help investors, and especially foreign investors, establish their own company in Kuwait and to increase direct investment. In the next slide, we will see that we do follow the International Foreign Direct Investment Goals. It focuses on four main aspects, which is the transfer of technology. The transfer of technology doesn't just limit to any tangible technology, rather than more of a know-how transfer. The creation of job opportunities, especially for national employees, providing training related to that type of work, and of course, supporting the local content. Within the business plan, we will be showing more as to how KDIPA follows the foreign direct investment goals. On the next slide, I'm going to introduce kind of preferable outcomes that we have seen under KDIPA's law. Now, KDIPA's law has been established in 2013 under law number 116. Prior to the law, no foreign investor was able to own 100% of their company in Kuwait. They would always be required to have an agent. However, under KDIPA, today they are capable to establish a company owning 100% of their ownership. We do have a very transparent set of criteria, hence following the foreign direct investment. We do follow the four main criteria. However, we do have subcategories that will be explained further on within this presentation. All of the activities, all of the economic activities are allowed. We do not have any specific free zone. Kuwait entirely could be considered as a free zone. So an investor may be able to establish their company anywhere in Kuwait under any activity, unless it was listed in the very short, I don't prefer to call it a negative list, I would prefer to call it an excluded list. This is also something I will be getting into further on, and I will explain what alternatives we might have. We have established in KDIPA one-stop shop department where everything from the beginning all the way to the aftercare services will be provided for investor as it is already been implemented. And then I'll explain the incentives and guarantees and the timeline of gaining the commercial license as well as the investment license. So moving on to the second slide. In order to, I would say, enhance the business environment, provide ease of doing business, very important role KDIPA takes into consideration. And that being the developmental, for instance, ensuring the increase in labor and in employment, national employment, the increase in proper type of training, all to ensure the type of transfer of know-how. If we take a look at promotional, KDIPA is a promotional authority. From its name, it is a promotional authority. And this is being done basically on a daily basis in order to enhance, in order to attract added value in direct investments. We implement that by our advocacy role. On a constant base, we do have collaboration with very main stakeholders, such as, I would say, government entities, constant MOUs in order to have a better understanding to provide facilitation, especially for foreign investors willing to invest in Kuwait. And of course, we would conclude that by the regulatory role, where any type of procedure, license, any type of process required, not only to establish a company, but to avoid and solve any hurdles that one might face when doing business in Kuwait. And then, of course, last but not least, we do have certain economic zones where they fall under KDIPA, such as land, where we do provide those for industrial project. Also, I'll get into that more at the end of the presentation. But this is just an overall, basically an overall role of what KDIPA performs in order to ensure direct investment and ensure facilitation. So now moving forward to the other slide. One of the main aspects in order to ensure such facilitation and aftercare is we do provide very designated account manager for every single project, for every single company, for every single investor. We do have a single account manager. It's a one way, and this account manager is able to provide all types of services, that being with government entities, that being with the investor, with KDIPA, all through one individual, which we call the account manager. Now, moving on to the next slide. I'd like to introduce the type of incentives and guarantees that fall under KDIPA's law. I've mentioned that at the beginning that a foreign investor today under KDIPA may own 100% of ownership. You are able, the investor is basically able to have a local partner. However, the shares does not have to lie only on 49 and 51%. It may be 100% ownership. Other than that, we do provide tax exemption. I've mentioned that the tax in Kuwait, the income tax, is 15%. Upon applying to KDIPA, the investor may apply for a tax exemption and could be guaranteed 15% exemption up to 10 years of operation. Also, custom duties exemption on any type of equipment, materials that might be imported for the needs of the direct investment, for the needs of the company in order to operate in Kuwait. A 5%, the 5% is a requirement as custom duties. KDIPA will be able to exempt the investor of that 5% fee. As for the land facilitation, we do have certain areas in Kuwait. It is owned by KDIPA. Following on, I will be able to show you a map of Kuwait. We also do have a very brief video that will explain what those areas we're currently working on and what type of projects will be granted those land for our investors. Foreign labors and benefits of bilateral treaties. Of course, the double taxation will immediately be eliminated. And for the foreign labor, all of our investors are able to bring along their foreign laborers, get visas by KDIPA and from KDIPA in order to work for their direct investment in Kuwait. So that is covering the incentive part. As for the guarantees, one of the major aspects that we do take into consideration, which is project information protection. During the time an investor approaches us, either is interested or in a general inquiry or is applying their business case, during the entire period, their information is always protected, and we always ensure that. The only time their project is announced is after they have their investment license and their commercial license. Every investor and every company, after establishing in Kuwait, is able to transfer their capital and earnings abroad. It does not need to be circulated within the economy. And of course, we have something which is protection from expropriation. KDIPA does not have the right at any time or point to expropriate or take away their commercial or investment license. So this is a type of protection for the investors. Transfer of ownership. The investor is capable of transferring their ownership, even expanding their business at any time or point during their business operation in Kuwait. So I hope this provided a clear aspect in terms of the incentives and guarantees. Now, when we come to see the type of companies, what can an investor establish in Kuwait? We do have 3 legal forms, and they go by application types. So the first one we call is the application A, and it is called a Kuwaiti company, meaning that an investor is able to, again, own up to 100%. However, their company is independent and will be treated as a Kuwaiti company within the local market. Even in terms of their operation within the GCC, it will be treated as a Kuwaiti company. And under this company, there are 3 legal forms, either a limited liability, having more than 1 shareholder, or a single person, or having a closed shareholding. Application B is what we call a branch of a foreign company. We do have a lot of investors that prefer to establish a branch rather than a Kuwaiti company or an independent company. That meaning they are still able to own up to 100%. The only difference is it will always be referring as a foreign company rather than a Kuwaiti company. And then last but not least, we have a representative office. And the purpose of this representative office is to give opportunities to investors to research the market in case they are a bit hesitant whether they should invest or not, whether they should establish their company, whether they should basically get things going. So we do give this opportunity. It is usually a period of 1 year to 2 years. And during this time, of course, the investor won't be able to engage in any commercial activity. However, they will be able to study the market and see their opportunities and what they're capable of doing in Kuwait. And once they do wish to invest and to establish their company, they will be able to apply either to application A, Kuwaiti company, or application B to establish a branch. So those were the legal forms basically available under KDIPA. Now moving on to our next slide. I've mentioned at the beginning that there was a negative list or an excluded list. They are, I believe, the shortest list available. There are only 10 activities. Let's take, for example, extraction of crude petroleum. The numbers that are available in front of you, those are the ABCK number, the International Standard Classification number. So if an investor wishes to engage in the activity, extraction of crude petroleum, simply the extraction will not be allowed, but any type of supporting activities, such as supporting activities of extraction of crude petroleum, that will be allowed to be engaged under KDIPA. Unless they would wish to have a local partner owning the majority of share, this might be able for the investor to engage in. So there are only 10 activities, and this is a decision by the Council of Ministers to not be engaged directly under KDIPA. We can see within this list real estate activities. When we say real estate, we mean selling and buying real estate, but any type of construction that is allowed. It's just that selling and buying of real estate. So those are the negative list. We can move on to the next slide. Following the foreign direct investment, the type of criteria is implemented in KDIPA. We do follow a scoring mechanism, meaning to ensure added value companies, each project goes through a scoring mechanism. We always ensure on quality rather than basically the quantity. The quantity meaning the investment value or the investment amount or the investment figures. Even the capital injection is not quite necessary, and no project will be evaluated based on that. We do focus on the transfer of know-how. That is what we aim for. And in order to do so, there are a set of criteria to be able to, for an investor to achieve in order to be granted the investment license and services provided by KDIPA. There are 5 main criteria, and then they all have sub-criteria underneath. The minimum approval or the minimum required achievement is just to have 5 of those criteria to be achieved. There are a total of 15. So if an investor is able to achieve 5 of the criteria listed in front of you, they will be able to have the investment license. But if we take a look as to how we ensure added value and the transfer of know-how, the transfer and settlement of technology, we do focus on the transfer of research and development. We do focus on the type of management method that will be implemented in their entity in Kuwait. And of course, other than that, the tangible and intangible technology simply used for the sake of direct investment in Kuwait, to always, of course, be settled and used for the long run. We do have the human capital to ensure certain Kuwaitization ratio, to try to encourage Kuwaitis to work more within the public, private sector, and to provide certain certified training programs related to the activity of the company. We focus on the economic diversification. Of course, diversification is a huge and a major aspect. We always try to contribute to non-oil sectors. How is the type of company or the type of project aiming to increase and improve the industry innovation or infrastructure? So it's a huge aspect, and it covers a lot of area. And then we look at the market development, enhancing, encouraging, and helping the local market, trying to reduce import, increase export, all falls under market development. And last but not least, we do have the sustainable development, working hand in hand with the international goal of sustainability. We focused on encouraging social responsibility program, as well as to have positive environment impact. Each of those criteria listed in front of you are defined, are listed exactly as to what we mean, and is very transparent as to what is basically required. So that is for the scoring mechanism. To conclude what the one-stop shop department does, to identify the duration as to when can someone obtain their investment license, it falls under 4 steps. The first step is to basically fill out what we call an application request form, kind of like a CV. And then after that, upon usually less than 3 days, an investor will receive an approval or further negotiation just to ensure that they are able to satisfy the criteria. And then to submit. And when we say submit, all of the legal documents of the mother company is required. Again, we'll be able to assist you step by step and to provide you a very accurate list of what's required. Along with that is a business plan. And a business plan is a forecast of approximately 3 to 5 years, identifying what their plan is in Kuwait, what they wish to invest in, and how they wish to have basically a future in applying that type of business. By law, the evaluation process and after the submission, KDIPA only has 30 days to give the approval or not on the application. And then after the investor gains their approval, they are able to obtain their commercial license. When it comes to establishing the company, the account manager is solely responsible to go to all of the government entities, including the Ministry of Commerce, to obtain all required license, to submit all necessary documents on behalf of the investor. And last but not least, you will be issued in KDIPA the investment license, which will allow the investor to practice 100% their business in Kuwait. We can now move on. Yep. So those are the managing zones. KDIPA has 5 main zones that is basically owned by the authority. And those lands will be given to either manufacturing, logistics, industrial type of projects. I will let the video right next to basically provide a much better explanation than I could.
Abdali is a district located in northern Kuwait, situated next to the Kuwait-Iraq border. As part of our commitment to supporting Kuwait's ongoing economic diversification, we, the Kuwait Direct Investment Promotion Authority, KDIPA, are working with a number of partners to develop a new economic zone in Abdali. This is one of several economic zones being developed by KDIPA, which include Al Wafra and Al Nayam economic zones, both of which aim to contribute to Kuwait's national development plan, namely its economic, financial and social objectives. The Abdali Economic Zone will be an integrated trade and economic hub for the country, spanning 502 hectares and comprising of 243 plots of diverse economic activities. It will create a new northern gateway for international trade within Kuwait. The economic zone in Abdali supports Kuwait's national vision for the expansion of its northern region, set to serve as a logistics hub for the planned GCC Railway and Mubarak Al-Kabir port. Offering a range of commercial, investment, industrial, hospitality, residential, warehousing and logistics opportunities, this new smart city will redevelop and energize Kuwait's northern province, driving a range of new economic and social opportunities for investors. The Abdali Economic Zone also boasts several sustainability and innovative design aspects. Those include strategically located district cooling plants with a combined capacity of 79,000 tons of refrigerant, as well as solid waste collection and processing systems, smart street lighting, and many other innovations. The design puts Abdali Economic Zone on course to be the first intelligent, connected city in Kuwait. All these features will add value to the residents and create opportunities to the investors in Abdali Economic Zone. As part of our commitment to technology and sustainability, the site features a plethora of green zones, in addition to harnessing smart systems across its infrastructure and road networks. KDIPA, be part of Kuwait's vision.
All right. Hope that provided a better insight as to what we're currently working on and what we're aiming. As of today, we have completed the design phase, and so moving on forward into the implementation. And so when it comes to achieving FDI targets, let's take a look at the figures as to today, how many approvals we have approved and the investment value. Those figures are till March 31st. We have approved 67 companies. They are worth 1.3 billion Kuwaiti dinars, and we have managed to ensure or to basically obtain or encourage them to employ more than 1,000 Kuwaiti nationals under their company and under their entity. So those are the achievements. A part of being and concentrating on diversification, we can see that the number of oil and gas sectors and companies applying for that sectors is gradually declining. As of today, from my experience, the majority are heading towards finance sector as well as waste management. Those are currently within the pipeline and we're working, but based on the approvals, we see that a lot have been going through energy and health, a couple within the construction. One of the major companies under construction we have is currently working on the Kuwait airport. If we take a look at the second slide, we do have figures basically of what we call our success stories. Those are the companies that are currently registered under KDIPA, has worked with KDIPA, we've partnered up, and they're doing pretty well. So I hope in the very near future, our success story keeps on growing. The companies displayed in front of you, they're in multiple sectors. We have Veolia in the waste management. We have Boeing in the aviation. And then, of course, we have Limac, which is currently the company working on the new Kuwait airport. I don't wish to keep any of the companies behind, but those are just a couple that I have mentioned. All right, I think I have come to a conclusion. I thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to be able to present, to join this event. For any further question, please feel free to contact me at any time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bashayr. And again, thank you to all of our Kuwaiti partners for supporting us, and of course, the U.S. Embassy. And now we'd like to give the floor back to Doug Brunke from the Global Chamber to introduce the U.S. speakers.
Thank you very much, Paula. My name is Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. We're headquartered in Phoenix, Arizona, and Palo Alto, California, and we have 525 chapters around the world. I remember early on learning about the Maryland Department of Commerce, and as I learned more and more about what their capabilities are, I became more and more impressed. One of our activities our main activity is helping exporters and investors move across borders. And so working with state organizations, I had not, when I met Maryland Department of Commerce, met a more organized, professional, skilled organization that was so well developed around the world. So I believe that Cigna represents an organization that's top-notch, one of the top in the United States. Cigna Pringle is the Deputy Secretary of the Maryland Department of Commerce, and we're very fortunate to be working with her at Global Chamber. I also see Mijong Hibbets, who's our Executive Director in Baltimore, Washington, available here on the line as well. Mijong, is there anything else that you wanted to say about our relationship and what you know about what's going on there?
Yes, hello and good morning and good evening, everyone. It's really nice to see all of you today. I am the Executive Director of the Global Chamber Baltimore, Washington, D.C. Metro, as Doug introduced. And our metro covers actually Baltimore, Maryland, and Washington, D.C., and Northern Virginia on the East Coast of the United States. And as the Executive Director, I focus on helping member companies in our chapter grow cross metro and cross-border trade and investment. And as you said, the Maryland Department of Commerce is a really top-notch economic development agency for the state of Maryland. And just Maryland geographic position is perfectly positioned for the doing international business, and then they have done so under current the leadership. So when I heard this collaborative event with AmCham about Kuwait and the US, I jumped on the opportunity because I know by the fact our region has so much to offer in terms of cross-border trade as well as investment, not only to Kuwait, but also globally. And I think the Deputy Secretary here is the best positions, to tell us about Maryland, what it has to offer, those exciting, the opportunities and what's being developed to all of us. So we really welcome and very pleased to have Deputy Secretary today, to tell us about the story of Maryland and its expansion, the story today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mijong. And I think it looks like Brian Castleberry is with us today, and again goes to the point of how Maryland really has it together. The industries are really incredible, and the organization to be able to connect you to opportunities there in a seamless way is outstanding. And worst case, you end up visiting, have some Maryland crabs and enjoy your time. And I think you're going to find out if you do that, there's some opportunities on the business side as well. Cigna, would you like to kick us off?
Sure, yes. Can you hear me all right?
Perfectly, thank you.
Okay, great. So first of all, thank you so much, Doug, and to your team for these very kind comments. And for those new to the venue here and the discussion, I did have the honor to lead the International Investment Trade Group for State of Maryland for 10 years. And now it is in a very, very capable hands of Jessica Reynolds, who you work with probably very closely with, as well as Brian, who covers that part of the world. So first of all, let me open by thanking the Global Chamber. You've been really a special partner of ours for many, many years, especially during COVID, when we had to do a lot of virtual events. And we do look forward to our continued efforts in promoting trade and investment between Maryland companies as well as international companies. So thank you for your continued partnership. I also want to thank AmCham Kuwait. We love your mission, and we look forward to exploring how we can foster trade between Maryland and Kuwait even further. So in the interest of time, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about our industries that we excel at, but I do want to give you a bit of an overview of Maryland, where we are located, about our assets, and then Brian will briefly talk to you about our soft landing program, which might be more relevant to some of you participants on this call. So Maryland has always been a place with great assets, from highly educated workforce, world-class universities and research institutions, as well as military installations and federal agencies, as well as laboratories that drive innovation in areas like cybersecurity, life sciences, and aerospace, to name a few of our industries that we're really strong. We're consistently ranked as one of the top states in the country for innovation, and it's mainly due to our assets, our human capital, and our policies, which allow new technologies and new businesses to flourish here in Maryland. Our state is the prime location at the heart of the U.S. Eastern Seaboard, which puts us within an overnight drive of more than 1/3 of the U.S. population. We have easy access, let me emphasize that, to roads, railway lines, and major international airports, many actually major international airports, as well as, if you have not heard, during especially the tough times of supply chain disruptions and whatnot, and the shipping challenges, the Port of Baltimore is the nation's leading roll-on, roll-off port, and keeps setting new records for the volume of cargo that passes through it. So two of our most exciting and fastest growing projects really are logistics and distribution hubs that are leveraging all the assets that I mentioned before, as well as our location, which helps these industries or these sectors to really grow incredibly rapidly. Some of these to mention just for you, and if you need any more information, obviously, about any of these hubs, we're happy to help you out. But Principia and Trade Point Atlantic are one of the major ones that just come to mind off the bat. And we're also using innovative public-private partnerships to fund some of the major infrastructure and transit projects, including one of the major highway, or including one of the new light rail line outside of Washington, D.C., as well as major highway improvements all across the state. So just to briefly mention a couple words about our strength when it comes to the industries where we excel at. Cybersecurity, obviously, Maryland is the nation's leading state when it comes to the ecosystem of cybersecurity assets, companies, and training hubs. And just to note, some of you might not know, but a lot of the federal agencies, and especially that relate to cybersecurity and information technology, are located here in Maryland, like NSA, National Security Agency, U.S. Cyber Command, as well as the NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology. So if you're a company that is looking to locate in the U.S., Maryland is a great place to start because you have access to all the assets in the federal agencies that often, obviously, also distribute. Actually, Maryland is the top recipient some of the federal funding when it comes to research and development that comes either through the universities here in Maryland or directly to some of the small and large corporations that are located here. And just to mention a couple of companies in the cybersecurity field, obviously, you know Lockheed Martin. They're very well known in the defense industry, but also cyber, tenable network security, ZeroFox, Cybery, when it comes to training of cyber future workforce. And life sciences obviously has been for a long time being our center of attention, and the ecosystem that we have been able to assist and enable to grow here in Maryland is pretty remarkable, because the National Capital Region really is one of the leading biohealth clusters in the country. And again, if you're in the life sciences industry and you are trying to access the U.S. market, being close to the National Institutes of Health, U.S. Food and Drug Administration, as well as the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center are big benefits for the companies that are looking to access the U.S. market through Maryland, as well as, not to mention, the University System of Maryland and worldwide known Johns Hopkins University and Hospital, which all of them have associated or affiliated research and technology parks on site that are helping the companies to really take advantage of some of the research and the funding that comes through the universities by locating in those technology parks and creating their own new innovative products and services to be sold here in the US and globally. So just to wrap up real quick, manufacturing, I know a lot of you, for the past few years are hearing, well, the manufacturing, what's happening, what are, the industry 4.0, are we really, catching up with the world and all that? And I'm really proud to say that Maryland's manufacturing industry that actually is contributed or generating over $42 billion in economic activity in our state is thriving. We have companies such as chemical producer W.R. Grace, still in operation after more than 150 years. Doug mentioned if you find nothing else here, at least you can eat crabs. You definitely have to eat the blue crabs with Old Bay, which is manufactured, produced here by McCormick, has been in business for 130 years, and crafting the food flavorings and spices right here in Maryland. But also some of the big names you're for sure are familiar with, like Under Armour apparel and athletic equipment manufacturer here, as well as Purdue Farms, which is one of America's top poultry producers. So it crosses across industries. Really, we are welcoming companies from any industry, whether or not it is specifically fitting into cyber life science or manufacturing. But when it comes to environmental technologies or water technologies or anything that is not listed or I haven't mentioned, we are eager and willing to work with any of these businesses that are looking to come and explore the US market here, with also explaining in detail then also some of the financial programs and incentives, from tax credits to forgivable loans that might be applicable as the jobs are created here and the investments are made. So these are just a couple of great things that are happening in Maryland that I mentioned, but we're ready to be your gateway to North America, and we can provide a soft landing for companies that want to explore the market, make connections, and build relationships with American businesses, as well as government entities and others, research institutions here in Maryland. So we welcome any questions you might have. Brian will briefly touch on the soft landing program, because this is a pretty unique program we have launched here officially last year. And Brian will also remain for any questions you might have after the presentation. I unfortunately have to sign off, but look forward to working with all of you who have interest in exploring the market and having Maryland as the very first step to do so. So thank you again for inviting us.
Thank you, Signa.
Thanks, Secretary Pringle.
Great information. Really appreciate it.
Hey guys, it's Brian Castleberry, and I'll be 3 seconds. First of all, hey John, I want to know where you found that picture of me. That was pre-kids, so I had a little more hair, a little less gray. Anyway, good to be with everybody today. My name's Brian Castleberry. I run the office for the Middle East in Maryland. It's based out of Dubai, covers Saudi Arabia, Qatar. We've done some work in Oman, but yeah, really looking forward to fostering some bilateral trade with Kuwait. So I spend probably 70% of my time helping Maryland companies export. So as Secretary Pringle talked about, we're really strong in cyber and healthcare. We do a big healthcare show in Dubai every year called Arab Health. I'm sure you all are very familiar with it. We've been going to that show since 2012. We take roughly 10 to 12 Maryland companies there. We see our friends from Enterprise Florida there every year. So yeah, majority of my time is helping our Maryland companies, which we think have the best technology, the best services, helping them export. The remainder of that time is trying to attract companies to Maryland. And as Secretary Pringle said, one way we do that is called our soft landing program. I left the link for everybody to check out, but essentially it's just a way to attract small startup companies to our incubators in Maryland. We've got roughly 30 of them, and they're affiliated with different industries. So just from watching the presentations earlier, I know healthcare is a growing industry in Kuwait. Companies doing well there and might want to set a beachhead up in the States. We'd love for them to consider Maryland. We would help them get involved with one of our incubators, and which would really help them have a space, get networked in, and I think most importantly, help them out with their business development. I've helped bring companies international in a previous life, and you're always worried about your sales and your business development. You got to, operations and everything, but the pressure, we understand the bottom line is the bottom line. So we will help you come here, get networked in. If you're a healthcare company and you want to talk to Johns Hopkins or the NIH or the University of Maryland, we will facilitate those meetings and really help you get networked into our cluster, whether it be cyber, healthcare, advanced manufacturing, defense. So I will end it there. I know we were short of time. Secretary Pringle had a previous appointment, so I'll be here for the Q&A. And thank you all for the invitation today. It's been a great program, very, very informative. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Is Secretary Pringle mentioned about a soft landing program? Is that something that you can send a link to, or?
Yeah, so I sent it before Dane and I were talking about Anne Arundel County. I left it, at 12:11. There's a link to that. So just goes over the program, which one of our incubators are involved in it, and how we help companies looking to set up a beachhead here.
Fantastic. Appreciate that.
Thanks,
Thank you. One of the things about great states like Maryland, where they can facilitate exporting, is that only 5% of companies in the U.S. are foreign owned, but 20% of the exports out of the U.S. come from those companies. And the reason why that happens is because of capable organizations that come into the U.S. and then work with groups like this that can help in both directions. So thank you for all that you do. Let's now move to Florida and Carlos Guerra. Carlos is the manager of Foreign Investment and Logistics, International Trade and Development Division of Enterprise Florida. Carlos, we look forward to hearing from you. Just as a time check for everybody, we are not going to be done by the bottom of the hour, unfortunately, but I hope most or all of you can stay on. And Carlos, would you be able to do your presentation within 10 minutes?
Oh, I'll do my best. Maybe we can do it very fast, just to give you a snapshot about what is Enterprise Florida and the business and investment opportunity in Florida. It's not a problem for me. If you want it, I'm ready. Thank you,
okay.
Doc.
Okay, very good. I think, if we can do it in 10 minutes, and then we'll have a little bit of time for California, and then we are going to go over, and so we'll have some Q&A. I want to recognize, before you begin, Lanier Robbins, the Executive Director for Global Chamber Miami. Lanier was the one that really kind of pull all this together. I was remarking, Lanier, about your ability to connect different organizations. Global Chamber collaborates with everyone. It just, not everybody wants to collaborate, but we do believe that collaboration is the answer to get more people involved with international business and to be successful. So Lanier, is there anything that you wanted to state before we get started?
Thank you so much, Doug, and thank you everyone for being here, both in Kuwait and across the United States. And special thanks to Carlos Guerra from Enterprise Florida, such a key economic engine in our state that does so much on the front of bringing companies from all over the world to locate in Florida, protecting our military bases, facilitating exporting, and you'll hear more from Carlos about the great things that they help our state with. Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I don't know if you can everybody see the screen.
We can.
Good? Okay. Very quick, thank you very much again for the opportunity, Doc. You did a great presentation, and thank you, Liner, for the introduction. I'm going to be very, very fast. Let me start with who we are. Actually, Enterprise Florida is the principal economic organization for the state of Florida, and we are in charge, and our mission is to expand and diversify Florida's economy, create jobs, and of course, the idea also is promote the global branding for Florida. Legally, we are a non-profit corporation. It's a joint effort between the private and the public sector, chaired by the governors of Florida governors. And a very important point that you mentioned also is the strong statewide and international network that we have to support and help and assist foreign companies and Florida companies as well. So let me show you very quick Enterprise Florida at international and local level. We have different regional offices through the states. Most important role is help, support, and assist Florida company, as well as give some support to foreign investors. This is very important because it's part of the network, domestic network of Enterprise Florida. Another important thing is the Enterprise Florida presence worldwide. We have 20 offices around the world. As you can see on the map, this also helps enormously in order to support the foreign investment process. So we can help so many companies from the origin country, and then we continue the process here in Florida. Just very quick, some facts and scenario and indicators about Florida. Many things that Florida is just beaches, is small and nice weather, but actually the state of Florida is a very strong economy. We have 67 counties and 8 economic districts with almost 22 million residents. So we are talking about a very strong economy, a very robust market. And also what is impressive with the state of Florida, just a few numbers. It's the third largest workforce in the United States. We have a very, very strong and robust economy. The economy of the state of Florida is in place 17th around the world. So we compete with many countries on this planet. And also the economy has a size of over $1.1 trillion, which is a very robust economy. Another important, interesting fact is Florida received over 120 million visitors every year. So that's numbers have an explanation because are possible because of the economy of the states. We have a per capita income of $60,000. We have a very strong workforce, over 10 million people, a very low unemployment. And also it's interesting to identify that it's a high growth economy, very strong in research and development. Over 600,000 Floridians are employed in high-tech businesses, and the economy continued growing, and it became the state a very strong state worldwide in terms of tech development. All of this is possible because the industries, the different clusters of the state are highly diversified. So you can see here all the industries: health industry, finance, professional, clean tech, manufacturing, life science, aviation, and logistics and distribution. All are part of this highly diversified economy of the state. Another important thing is just to visualize the distribution of some information technology cluster through the state. I'm going to go a little bit faster because of the time, but if you need this information, also I can share the statistic and maps for you to have a better reference the big picture of the state of Florida. Another important thing is the infrastructure. We cannot talk about international trade, international investment if we don't have a very strong infrastructure. In general, we can identify we have 20 commercial airports and 15 deep water seaports, which of course facilitate enormously the international trade around the world. Another important thing is why invest in Florida. There are so many reasons why invest in Florida, and many companies open a headquarters here or do business in Florida because it's a very friendly state for doing business. Also, another important point is the connectivity. Enterprise Solar Florida supports so many investors, and the state of Florida has a very strong connectivity worldwide, but particularly with Latin America. Many companies open businesses here because of the access to the region. For instance, more than 100 airlines flights to Latin America and most of Europe and Middle East. And of course, this facilitates the dynamic and the connectivity of the states. Another important thing is in just a few hours, this is very important for potential investor, entrepreneurs, executives, CEO, business owners. The connectivity with the rest of the world is very impressive, and especially with Latin America and the Caribbean and Central America. In just two and a half or very few hours, you can connect different markets. So this also helps us to understand why also Miami particularly is a network access point in the map, which is Miami serves as the major switching station for Latin American internet traffic in the world. So another important point is international trade of Florida. Most of the trade partners are from Latin America, but it's very important to understand that over 50% of the international trade, the trade balance of the state of Florida is with Latin America. However, we have very strong partners all over the world, understanding Europe, Middle East, and Asia. Another important point, how we can assist you in the process. First of all, if you can contact me, I will send through the chat by personal information. You can contact me. We help foreign companies to do business in the States. We start, first of all, with a questionnaire, with a form that every company must fill it out. It's very simple, but also we have a very personalized service. We talk with the company, we talk with the potential investor, because for us, it's very important to understand that every single investment process is case by case. So every investor, every investment process is unique. So another important thing is the support that we have with a company. I want to show you this very quick because it's not just help company invest in Florida, but also any company in the future, in the near future, in the short term, it could be a potential exporter. So we continue the assistance through Enterprise Florida with different grants and incentive to help and support local companies, foreign investors, to export all over the world. And here we have the great support of the U.S. Commercial Service, AmCham, and many other organizations. So the main message here is, I think it was mentioned before, is the network, the support of different institutions in order to assist, help, and support Florida companies and potential foreign investors. This is my contact information, but in a way, I'll send you my email through the chat. So because of the time, but anyway, I want to thank you again for the invitation. And if you have any questions, of course, I'll be more than happy to help you. Thank you very much again.
Very much. Thank you very much, Carlos. Really appreciate it. Sure. And watch for his information in the chat area. Paula, looks like we can probably cover California in about half the time, so in about 5 minutes, and then that'll put us around 20 minutes to the hour. So please be thinking about that as we wrap up. Again, I'm Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber, and I'm just really pleased to hear this information. It's just been such a rich conversation about Kuwait, about Maryland, and now about Florida. I also want to recognize several people. Most of our members have had to leave, but several that I see: David Lindsay out of Utah, and with a really outstanding armored product, very state-of-the-art. David, thank you for sticking through. And new member Nihi Sanusi in Lagos, Nigeria. Just really appreciate all of your support. Terry Levine, also in Utah. We talked about Lanier and Mijong earlier. And then I think Nelson of the Malaysian Investment Development Authority is on the line as well. So Malaysia is definitely an amazing country to be part of, and we really enjoyed working with them over many, many years. So let's go to another foreign country, or what some people consider to be a foreign country, California. I'm a person, as I mentioned earlier, based out of the Scottsdale, Phoenix, Arizona, Valley of the Sun. But I also spend about half of my time in the Bay Area and in Los Angeles. We have, since this will be a shortened conversation, we do have a Global Chamber Los Angeles meetup tomorrow at noon Pacific time. So not very good timing for Kuwait, unfortunately. But if you're in the States, please join us, and we're going to be talking about business opportunities in and out of Los Angeles. I took some notes from our board chair, Jeffrey Darr of Darr and Newman Attorneys in Beverly Hills. Jeffrey is our board chair for the chapter, and he has claimed several times that Los Angeles sells itself, and here's why. One thing you could probably notice right away is that the consulate for Kuwait is in Beverly Hills, and if you've been to Beverly Hills, it's not a bad place. Los Angeles is on television all the time for many reasons, not just in the US, but around the world. It's a sunny place, it's a positive place, it's a clean place generally, and it's just a good place to be. It's also very diverse and very cosmopolitan. It's the Western capital of the US, it's the Eastern capital of Asia, it's the third largest metropolitan economy in the world. LA would be the 17th largest country by GDP, comparable to Indonesia. So there's a lot of business activity going on in the Los Angeles area. California is the fifth largest economy in the world, if you consider states and countries to be equal. So the state, both upstate and downstate, Northern California and Southern California, is a global powerhouse. Los Angeles is growing faster than any large city in the United States, according to Bloomberg. Going back to the diversity and not just for the people, but of the market segments, there are 224 languages spoken in Los Angeles. There's 100 consulates, and every quarter they come up with an update on what's going on there. It's been a very helpful resource for us over the life of Global Chamber. Just really appreciate that resource by Los Angeles County. There are 180 publications, 180 language publications in Los Angeles, again, going to diversity. Over 60% of Los Angelinos speak another language besides English. In the United States, on average, 22% of people speak a foreign language, but in LA, it's 44%, double. Versus New York, which I think is the only real comparable city in terms of size and economy and activity. I'm from New York. I love New York. However, LA is way cleaner, way safer, way newer, much sunnier. The people are more positive. And one of the most important things about LA is we welcome people from other places. It's an amazing place. It's not like you had to be born here and your grandparents had to work with each other. No, you show up, you're right in the stream of activity right away. So I really feel very positive and really great about Los Angeles from that perspective. And the Western United States, by the way, is generally like that. Let's see, I'll skip over some of this information. There are two main ports, the Port of LA and the Port of Long Beach. It's the #1 sports city in the United States, most number of sports teams. Also, the most number of museums of any city in the United States, maybe in the world, I'm not sure, probably not the world. Los Angeles LAX airport is the #3 airport in the world in terms of traffic, and there are multiple other airports around. And then I think that's probably it. The main story I think that we as a chapter wanted to mention is there's an awful lot of business activity going on in the Los Angeles area. There's also a lot of business activity in Northern California, in the San Francisco and in Sacramento. One of our members, Barry Broom, who runs Select Sacramento, has talked a little bit about California and the migration of people. There is a net migration positive outward to California. However, most of the higher tech industries are coming into California. So if you're in a business that is anything relative to high tech, the best place in the world to be is California. So Paul, that's a little bit of a glimpse of Southern California, a little bit of Northern California. You've heard from Maryland and Florida, two of our favorite states as well. Any of these locations would be great to locate your business, and you've got a whole host of people in all those locations to be able to help. Our connection into Southern California is Christine Peterson. She runs the international department at the City of Los Angeles. And so if you'd like to get a hold of her or any of the other economic development resources in Southern California, please let me know. I'm doug@globalchamber.org. And any of our members, any of our advisory board for the chapter would love to help as well. Paula, that does it from Southern California. What would you like to do next?
Thank you so much, Doug. I would now like to give the floor to Pete. And just before I do that, because we didn't have any time for questions, we will send a post-event email with the speakers' information if the speakers would like to share their email addresses, as well as the link that you mentioned for Maryland. And if there's any other information that you would like for us to share with the participants, we're more than happy to do that. So now I'd like to give the floor back to Pete.
Wow, that's so much great information. I'd like to thank you all for being here. Special thanks to the presenters. A lot of great information. And a point that Doug made that we feel, especially with the current situation with our Kuwait partners and the Yusuf and the U.S. Embassy, collaboration and working together is the key to making positive things happen. And Doug hit on that point, and I agree 100%. We have to work together. We have to talk together. We have to be able to pick up the phone and make a connection for someone and make something happen. So I'm really excited about this type of collaboration, and I really want to thank Nasir and Yusuf, our partners here. And if anyone needs contact details for anyone that they didn't take from the chat or they didn't pick it up, please reach out to us and we'll share that. But Doug, we're excited about the way forward. And Secretary Pringle mentioned something that I didn't know. Old Bay is from Maryland. You couldn't have told me that it wasn't from New Orleans.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, Old Bay is, yep, that's our claim to fame. It's good on anything. Eggs, Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Have Old Bay with everything.
I use it that way. If I can't find it in the Sultan Center, I order from Amazon. So I keep Old Bay on my shelf. So
Great. See, I'm partially there's a special sauce, and Dana from Southern Anne Arundel County probably knows this, but it's called J.O. sauce, and it's kind of like Old Bay, but it's a little more, might be a little more southern, spicy, a little more tang to it. So it's called J.O. That's what I like on crabs better than Old Bay. But
okay,
I'm digressing.
I'll look for that. But great call. Thank you all. And as always, thank you to our ED, Paola, and her team. Without them, we couldn't do what we do. And again, like I said, thank you for here and Yusuf, and great relationship with our partners here in Kuwait. And we look forward to fostering a strong relationship with all of you on the U.S. side. So thank you all. Thank you for our members, and look forward to the next time.
Thank you
Pete.
very much.
Have a great day, all.
Paula.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug.
Good evening.
Very much.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.